increased hostility from the United States has placed a spotlight on Canada's defense capabilities.
They should be grateful to us. Canada lives because of the United States. Remember that, Mark, the next time you make your statements.
That's U.S. President Donald Trump taking jabs at Prime Minister Mark Carney during his speech Wednesday at the World Economic Forum. And before that speech, there was this image from Truth Social showing an American flag over Canada. Alongside this, you might also have noticed more ads for the Canadian Armed Forces popping up on your social media feeds recently. You might also have seen reports from the Globe and Mail that the military has developed a model response in the event of a U.S. attack. But following years of low recruitment, the Canadian Armed Forces is beginning to see an uptick in new recruits. So what's driving that interest? For a closer look this morning, we reached
Hello everyone, this is another edition of the Ottawa Market, and today we're talking about the response of Trump to what, in my view, and I've been critical about the Prime Minister before, but he gave, in my view, a very excellent, eloquent speech concerning the new world order in the vision of Trump as being very transactional and trying to basically fleece and constantly threaten allies in order to, in the context of Trump's now focus on reviving the Monroe Doctrine and calling it the Donroe Doctrine, and the constant, as we see in that last image, Trump's vision is Greenland and Canada under the American flag, and you will not see any sort of critical image concerning China or Russia, which is allegedly the reason that Trump wants to invade Greenland. But as you can see in his image of the AI, the reason why Trump, the whole imagery shows to us that the reason for his desire to want to invade Greenland is to also invade Canada, and that's why we see the image of Greenland and Canada under the American flag. So the question is, further to the Prime Minister's very good speech on the new reality, and further to the increased interest in joining the Canadian military, what should be the response to Canada in the context also of the Saab-Gripen fighter? What should be the response of Canada in order to deal with the constant threats of annexation by the Trump administration? So I'm going to go down those, what in my view should be the critical response. And I invite anybody who is watching this presentation to decide whether they think they're good ideas or bad ideas. So my first view of this is that, in my view, what Carney needs to do is that he needs to revisit NORAD. Right now, NORAD is under a unified command which places the Canadian military under a United States Air Force and military structure. So the first thing that Carney, in my view, needs to do, if he's serious about responding to the constant threats from Trump, the constant disrespect that Carney referred to at Davos in terms of replacing the post-World War II international order based upon that has been led by the United States, based upon democratic values, to one based upon bullying and subordination. Canada needs to revisit NORAD. It needs to eliminate the unified command structure of NORAD, which places the Canadian military under United States control, which gives the ability of the U.S. Air Force to come into Canadian airspace pretty much at will, as we saw many weeks ago when there were some problems taking place in Canada. Who did people witness in Western Canada? What did people witness but a U.S. Air Force jet trying to intercept rather than a Canadian jet? So in my view, Canada needs to revisit NORAD. We can still have NORAD, but we need to replace the unified command structure with a structure similar to NATO. NORAD should be two independent militaries cooperating. The United States should not be allowed to violate Canadian airspace at will and do whatever they want. There should not be, the NORAD structure is very unique. Most military cooperations are all separate and independent, equal military forces cooperating on their own terms. So what we need to do is we should revise NORAD so there is a Canadian control at all times, separate from any U.S. Air Force or other military control. So we need to make NORAD put the Canadian military in equal footing, and we decide what we want, because right now the consequence of that unified military structure is that too many former and current representatives of the Royal Canadian Air Force are basically capitulating to Trump's desire for Canada to purchase the F-35. This has compromised our decision makers because we don't have a completely independent military capability, and because they are, lo and behold, into a U.S. military command structure. So we need to revise NORAD, make it two independent militaries, no more unified command structure. We do our thing, the Americans do their thing, we cooperate when we want, and when we are threatened, our military should not be lo and beholden to U.S. military interests. So revise NORAD, choose the Gripen. In my view, Canada should not even purchase the 18 F-35s that they're allegedly contractually obligated to purchase. In my view, that purchase was made, I believe, while Biden in his office, while there was some sort of sanity in the White House. In my view, Carney can easily claim under a force majeure that the way the Trump administration is acting and the extent to which the F-35s have been compromised by American military control, that we are no longer obligated to buy these F-35s at all by Lockheed Martin. In my view, Canada should not have a mixed fleet of Saab-Gripens and F-35s. All those F-35s should be kicked to the curb. We should not buy any of them at all, and we should replace the immediate purchasing of F-35s with a completely 100% Saab-Gripen-based military jets. We should not be purchasing any type of fighters that Trump is going to be able to shut down if we have to militarily engage with the United States in any conflict. If those 18 F-35s are